Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 126.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, everybody, let's get back to business this time. We had been talking about our essential skills, and then you know what happened? We had a killer interview. At least I thought it was killer, and I was like, you know what? I got to get this out sooner, and hopefully you were able to catch the previous episode. And if you haven't, go back and listen to it. I dare you to tell me that it isn't awesome, and most importantly, that those concepts won't actually push you in the correct direction that you need to go in anyway. Our guest was phenomenal, and I was just like, you know what? Couldn't wait. Bumped everything off and said, here, let's get this one up. Anyway, it's been good to continue this series of essential skills, these essential skills for entrepreneurs. And today's is by far, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many, probably the number one essential skill out there. And if you looked at the title in any way, shape, or form, you understand that we are talking about sales. That's right. Dollar bills, right? If you don't, you can have a customer. That's right. You don't have a customer unless there's a sale. You got to have those things. And in order to make those things happen, they can't just kind of happen. You've got to have a plan, strategic, and you've got to know how to do it. And I'm not, this is not going to be like a 20-minute sales course in any way, shape, or form. My goal here is to help you have some of the understanding of the context of how sales fits in, and understanding that it is still it's a necessary part. And we'll be talking about it in three different aspects. Number one, that will likely be the most important one, but it's the one that you've got to understand. And one of the fundamental things when it comes to sales is just to understand this. Your company has to sell something. It doesn't mean you have to do it. However, for most of us that are just building our portfolios or getting started or doing whatever it is that we're doing, we probably should be that person for a significant period of time. Because the one thing that is consistently true is sales is the most expensive thing to outsource or find someone else to do for you on your behalf, especially to get them to do it well and right. And then once you do that process, you got to keep them happy. And that's a whole different animal. It's one of those very, very highly compensated skill sets for a reason. And that's one of the things that we want to jump this off and just think about. See, right now, if I said, hey, the next essential skill was tying your shoe, you'd be all fired up, be like, cool, I got that one. Right. And if I said the next essential skill was typing, right? There was a time in the world where something like typing, it was new. It was like, oh my gosh, have you seen that thing called a typewriter? So-and-so knows how to use it, and she uses it so well, and he's so good on the typewriter. And man, if I could only, learn how to do the typewriter, then I could earn X number of dollars per hour. And that would be like the primo thing, because then I could go do, you get where I mean? It's about skill sets. We are fundamentally in a skill set game, people, not an education game, meaning he who knows the most isn't necessarily the one that's going to win. It's he who knows how to do the most and execute. That's a completely different story. That's what I want to drive home. It's about skill sets. Now, you were born with some, you mastered a few more. And sometimes, unfortunately, this is one of the most damaging things, I think, about our educational system or educational systems as they are traditionally understood worldwide. is that we think that once we have graduated from that traditional education system, we are done learning and or picking up new skills. Absolutely, completely false. There's a reason that doctors and lawyers and financial planners and many other individuals with licenses have this thing called continuing education, is because it should, well, continue. Here's my point. He or she with the most skill sets wins. How many skill sets have you gained in the last 12 months? Okay, maybe that's not long enough. Last 24 months, 36 months. Would there be anyone in your life that could point to you and say, hey, wow, you've learned some things. You do things differently. You are more efficient here. You learned a whole new different thing in any way, shape, or form. Adding new skill sets is the name of the game for you, your brand, your business, and how you're going to be able to continue to scale and reach more customers. Restricting yourself to just what you know is a problem. Now, if you do choose to do that, understand your business still needs somebody to do it. So therefore, you're going to have to learn to go attract the individual and retain the individual who is going to do that skill set for you, which by default means you're going to end up gaining a new skill, which is known as recruitment and then management and then leadership, which is completely fine. You're still going to have to learn them anyway, no matter how it goes down. In fact, you're going to have to learn sales because, get this, to hire the salesperson, you got to sell them on the job. It's awesome. All of those pieces go together all the time. They are always present. So there's no avoiding them. So keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about some things as it relates to sales. First and foremost, understand this thing. Nothing happens until there's a sale. You say to me, Jay, well, I don't understand how the electric bill is going to work on this particular property, or what about the utilities, or what about government grants, and what about this? And you know what? It sold for this much 12 years ago. Well, that's wonderful. Nothing happens until there's a sale. You don't need a customer service department. You don't need tech support until there's a sale. If there's no sale, there's no sense in worrying about customer service or tech support. The first thing is to go out there and sell your idea. So as soon as you come up with that next great idea, the next phone call should be to anyone willing to listen and give them a pitch. You're like, I don't even know what the product is, or what about this, and how would this part of the product work? It doesn't matter yet. What matters is, can you sell it? Can you find a way to transfer your energy, your idea to someone else so much so that they go, you know what? That sounds valuable. In fact, let me pay you for that. That would be awesome. Don't worry about all of those other things that are coming into your head. Try to sell your idea. In fact, these are the 5 questions you need to answer in this order all the time to be able to build any business around any concept, idea, or problem that you're solving. These are the 5 questions in this order. It's why, what, when, who, and how. See, most of the time when we come up with a genius idea, the first thing we go is, how on earth am I going to do that? I don't know. You don't know. And because you or I don't know, what ends up happening is we do nothing until we can see how we can do it. Interestingly enough for me, there are many things that I've learned and that our company now does, but it's not because I knew how to do them originally. It's because someone else did. And the interesting thing is even on those things that I did know how to do, they didn't get done for a long time until someone else was able to come along and help me get them up by a certain deadline. But in order for that to happen, I had to be clear on what I wanted done, and most importantly, then therefore why it was necessary. The most important thing you can get clear on right now is, why on earth would you want to subject yourself to this brain damage? Remember, there is an easier way. You can't say, Jay, I just want to earn more money. Wrong answer. Why are you doing this? If you want to just earn more money, if you're currently working a job, go get a second one. Guess what? Goal accomplished. If the goal is bigger than just more money, then let's get real about why you're wanting to do it. Because Those who are not clear on their why will not last, because this is going to take a deep, well-planted root that has lots of water and soil and fertilizer, etc., in order to break through that ground. I've heard it said that bamboo trees can be planted for a significant period of time, even up to 5 years. And during that 5-year time, guess what they still need? Water, nutrients. They still need care. And it's not until 5 years later than one time overnight, in a very short period of time, it grows dozens, if not hundreds, of feet. Interesting thought. You could be right now in your 5-year period and not even know it, which would be interesting if you fail to water and nurture and care for that seed that's been planted and sitting in you for quite some time. But you've got to be clear on what that seed is, why it's so important. Because building a team around yourself is difficult if you don't know why you're doing it and what it is that you need to get accomplished. You must be clear. Clarity, write this down. Clarity leads to power. The power to do 2 very specific and necessary things in your role as CEO or president or managing member or whatever it is you wish to call yourself. Those 2 things are the power to decide and the power to act. Many people think they know how to decide, but they don't understand the word decision has to do with the root word deci, meaning to cut. And if you cut, or if you turn away from and or leave something behind, the options got fewer. If I ask you right now to turn your head to the left, you by default cannot see what is on your right because you have turned your head to the left. You cut off the option of looking to the things on your right. You could be completely blindsided by anything coming from your right now because you are looking to the left. Hopefully you weren't driving and you didn't do that. But you get my point. All I'm saying is he or she who is clear on why they're doing it can then move to the next step of deciding and acting. Because even if you do manage to create a decision, and trust me here, decisions are created. If you can create the environment where you are able to consistently create decisions, that's good. The next thing, though, is, are you able to act on them? You must learn to be able to make decisions with enough information, not all, and then act on them. Because the first sale that you must make is to yourself. So again, I repeat the questions. It goes with why, what, when, who, then, how. Once you're clear on the why, you can begin to understand the what it is that you need to do in order to see those things come to life. And then when that happens, that you are now clear on the what, it's easy to go and say, hey, when would I like to see these things? And then once you realize how overwhelming what it is that you want is, you're like, man, I need some help. Who can help me with just this piece? What's interesting is you don't need to know how this piece is going to be done. But you must be clear on the why and the what so that you can communicate to the person who is the who that's going to help you execute by your deadline what it is that you're looking to do and that you're now clear on why you're doing it. Because if you are not clear to that person, they're not going to be able to be of their greatest benefit. And they will then figure out how, which is great, which is exactly where you want to be. You don't want to be the one that has to come up with all of the answers all of the time. Individuals working with you should be able to own their position, their objective, and make it happen. Ask them to come up with the how. Well, I've never done that before. I didn't ask you if you'd done it before. I asked you to do it. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what you should be looking for. Because nothing happens until there's a sale. And one of the most important sales, as I've said before, is to yourself. And then also, as you probably have guessed, to the team member. You don't need the tech support. You don't need the customer service. Go make a sale. Let me, at this moment, address something that you might be thinking. Or you may have said, or in fact, even if you did actually make it this far, I congratulate you already, especially if you're feeling this way. If you said to yourself, you know what, Jay, I don't like sales. I'm going to say, you're lying. You love them. You absolutely can't wait to make your next sale, in fact. You probably made sales today, even though you did not collect a check. Here's my point. It's not selling. That's what you don't like. Most of us love to assist other people and help them to their destination, especially when we see that we can be a resource to helping them, that we have something that they could use or leverage for their gain to be able to get what they said they wanted. And from that perspective, you can now understand that sales equals service. In fact, unless I sell you something, I am prevented from serving you. I would love to serve you, however, that therefore facilitates that there must be a negotiation of a fair exchange of value. Keywords being fair exchange of value. A general principle that we strive to abide by all the time, and I do mean all the time, is to give more in use value than you take in cash value. To give more in use value than you take in cash value. Many of you may have actually gone over to learninvestingnow.com, and this is how we give more in use value than we take in cash value. One of the things that has been collected at learninvestingnow.com is the due diligence checklist. Well, a lot of due diligence, and again, many experienced investors will tell you this. You think you can ask all the questions up front, and you're absolutely wrong. However, as you go, one of the wise things to do is to, when you realize that certain things cause you a really big headache, is to begin to ask for those things up front. So that the next time, something else gets the privilege of causing you a headache, but that's okay. You're committed to the destination, not to this event. And what you must do is you must continue past that, but also document what happened. Therein lies the value, in my opinion, for our due diligence checklist. Because we've gone through hundreds of transactions, tens of millions of dollars, not only in private capital, but also in real estate deals. And we documented the things that we have to keep asking for to help us prevent from making errors in judgments that cost time or money later. And the time or money later that is now saved is well spent, well invested, well worth it. And that is an item we give you for free. I've given you more in use value than I take in cash value. And that's on purpose, because I believe that that's a negotiation of a very, very fair exchange. Because you must, in order to receive that document, give us at least your email and allow us to communicate with you. I'm well aware that many of you have been able to use that document to save yourselves tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not more dollars. I'm aware of that. I'm also okay with it, because that means I've helped you as well. And it just makes me feel darn good. So keep that in mind. Because see, here's what happens. If either party does not receive or perceives it does not receive adequate value, then that transaction is abusive to one of the parties. You could give someone something of great value that you know is of great value, but if they perceive it to be of little value, then you have wronged them. And the exchange was not fair. For example, if you were dealing with an Eskimo or someone who valued things that kept them warm, and instead of giving them a coat, you gave them a painting for their igloo, but they needed a coat. Unless you also submitted to them a plan to how to then exchange said painting for someone else who might also then therefore have the coat that they're looking for, I would suggest very clearly that you have wronged them. We must be aware of this all the time. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect at it. It means you have to be aware of it and always give more in use value than you take in cash value. You must give me something that I value more than the thing you are requesting from me. Now, that doesn't mean it actually has to be valued by someone else as more valuable. It just has to be valued by me, by the person you are dealing with. Value is in the eye of the beholder. You must remember that. Occasionally, people, because of their own vantage points, resources, and whatnot, will place greater value on something that you might consider to be of very little value. And that's the point. That's when an exchange has the ability to actually take place and be of benefit to all parties involved. And that's exactly what you're looking for. That's why when someone says to me that, hey, my house just burnt down, there's, fire or flood or water damage or this is going on, they're now communicating something that they consider to be of lesser value. And they're now saying, hey, I would love to have what you have, which I currently see as something of greater value. And in those situations, I often go, well, I like your property, which I can see to be of greater value to me than whatever it is that I'm currently possessing that you say you want. And an exchange can begin to take place. Another common misconception in why sales is such an essential skill is because oftentimes we believe we don't know what to say. Interestingly enough, in my experience, what to say is pretty much irrelevant. Because it's not what to say, it's what to ask. The only person who knows why they would give up their funds or money or currency or anything that they consider of value, time, email addresses, address, phone numbers, whatever it is that they consider of value that you are asking for, the only reason they're ever going to give it up is for their reasons, not mine. And their reasons have to be strong enough to warrant relinquishing whatever it is that you are asking for as part of the transaction. If, however, you don't know what those things are, it's your own fault. Which is why the more powerful thing to know is what to ask. If you don't take the time to find out, as my friend Russell Gray says of the real estate guys, diagnosis without prescription is malpractice. Here's what I mean. Imagine if you went to the mechanic and you walk through the door and the only thing he said or she said to you was, "Hi, welcome. That'll be $597, please. You're like, what? I haven't told you what's wrong with my car yet. Now, that would be an interesting way to start the relationship, but I'm guessing that's never happened to you. What about if you went to the doctor? You walked through, you went to the triage nurse, you sat in the office, you waited, which is another example in sales. When the pain is big enough, you will wait. Your customer will wait for your solution as long as it takes. How many of you have ever had an appointment with the doctor, even though you made the appointment, the doctor, for whatever reason, was behind schedule and you had to wait? Did you leave? Or did you call in and say, hey, guys, I'm going to be late. I'm trying to get this doctor appointment handled? That's just food for thought. When the pain is big enough, your customer will wait. But here's my point. What if by the time you finally got through the doctor and the triage nurse, you're in the room, you're done the waiting, he or she walks in, they got the clipboard, they're staring at you, and they just go, You go, what? And then they say, well, take 2 of these, you'll be fine. Well, doc, I haven't told you what's wrong yet. Yeah, I know. Just take 2 of these. That's my point. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. And it's high time that many of us, yes, you, listening, learned to become professional people who sell stuff. Notice the order in which I said this. I didn't say become a salesperson because most of you know how salespeople are treated. I said become a professional person who happens to sell stuff. And when you do that, your world will begin to change. So if it's not what to say and it's what to ask, I'm going to leave you with some homework, if you will, so that you can begin this question asking journey that I so thoroughly enjoy. I love studying great questions. I love them. They're fun. I try to put myself in situations to where I can pick up new questions all the time. And so I'm going to share some of my inside secrets of where to find the best questions to ask inside of a sales conversation so that you can have them and be armed too. Because one of the best things you could ever do is to study the questions of those that are accomplished at what you are looking to do. Because there's a reason they're asking. There's a reason that they ask in the order that they're asking. There's a reason that they ask when they ask. There's a reason that they ask how they ask. And these are all deeper things that you can begin to ask other than just understanding what they're asking. Find out why and when. Why did they ask that? Why did they ask it right then? Why did they ask it that way? And what did you hear and or see in this other person that made you believe that they would have the answer? These are great questions you can ask about every question ever asked. And it will begin to reveal how someone is thinking, their motivations, and you'll be able to match up and duplicate and mimic and become better yourself. So, I'll leave you today with 4 very specific places that you could go right now to learn some of the absolute best questions to ask so that you can go and become better and become that professional person who happens to sell stuff. The first place I'm going to suggest very strongly is QVC, or second place, the Home Shopping Network. These are 2 channels, at least they run in the US and many other syndicated places, satellite, blah, blah, blah. Here's the point. All they do is sell stuff all day long. And people voluntarily turn on those channels to be sold stuff. They know the point of the channel is someone's going to come on the TV and sell me something. All right? And they do it voluntarily. Keep that in mind about your customer as well. Another place to go that's really not that popular, but definitely a great place to study some questions, is a car sales lot. What is the first question that the salesperson asks you? They've been trained to ask you that first question for a reason, and very specifically. I'm almost willing to bet that it is a verbatim question that they are supposed to ask in the same way every time, so that it generates a very hyper similar result. And then they continue to ask more questions. Even when you say, "Hey, I'm just looking for the bathroom," they've got an answer that will somehow lead you to a test drive at some point during that visit. It's about the question. The last place that I'm going to share with you today, and definitely probably one of the most unpopular places, and you're not going to like what I have to say, but I'm telling you to go anyway. Not because I earn any money from this or anything. You're going to study questions. I'm going to ask you to go to a timeshare, shared vacation ownership, something of that type presentation. You're like, "Jay, you have got to be crazy." Maybe that is true. I don't know. However, here's what I do know. I know that the person who goes to the timeshare presentation, the potential customer, has made an agreement with their significant other and said, "We're not buying anything tonight, right, honey? Not at all. I don't care what they give us. We're not buying anything. Let's shake on it." Everything's great. They get in their car. They head down to the presentation with that agreement solidly, firmly in place, reconfirming with each other all the way there. And then somehow, 90 minutes later, they're happy about the tens of thousands of dollars that they just invested in a timeshare or some sort of shared vacation ownership system. They're happy about it. What happened to that agreement that they had made just 90 minutes earlier? How did you go from "we're not buying anything, we're just going to show up for the free movie tickets" to "yeah, that absolutely made sense"? See, it's questions that help people move through the process, come to their own realization. And once they realize, "Hey, I'm in pain," we will do whatever we've got to do to resolve the pain. It's been fun talking to you soon. I look forward to talking to you again. Until next time.